Hello everyone and welcome back to some more Marvel Crisis Protocol for the channel. In today's big 20 threat match, the Avengers are going up against Dormammu and his Dark Dimension Thralls, and it should be a pretty violent one with a lot of victory points on the table available each round, and featuring just some Dormammu themed terrain as well. So with that said, let's go take a look at the two sides. So here are the Avengers, mostly from the new core box, the Mightiest Heroes box, being led by the Captain America from that with his Earth's Mightiest Heroes affiliation bonus. As long as you get one hit on an attack, you can spend one power to change another die to any other result. Joined by the Black Widow from that box, which is a 4 threat Black Widow, who is called the Black Widow. We have the Captain Marvel from that box, which is Captain Marvel Cosmic Avenger. If ever she has 6 power or more, she transforms into binary form and she goes Super Saiyan, basically. She doesn't generate any power on that form though, so you kind of burn through it and then transform back. We also have the Spider-Man, which is Spectacular Spider-Man. It's a 3 threat Spider-Man from that core box. He's very similar to the one from the original core box. He's just your basic Spider-Man. He has web swing, he has spider sense, and he does all physical damage, impact webbing, and a strike. That's basically it. Thor was unavailable, so instead he sent Beta Ray Bill, the 4 threat Beta Ray Bill, just a decent space filler. He's very powerful no matter who he's with, and their tactics cards that we just pan down awkwardly ever so slightly are Avengers Assemble, Scuttlebutt on Me, Face Me, Reserve Members, which is being used on Beta Ray Bill, and Second Wind. And here we have the Dark Dimension being led by, of course, the Big Daddy himself, Dormammu, 8 threat. Doesn't really feel it these days with so many powerful 6 threat characters, and of course we have 7 with Malekith and Immortal Hulk, so he's feeling a little lackluster these days, but here he is, and he brings along his Thralls, and 20 threat allows him to bring quite a few 3 threat characters, which is what he's done. He's brought Pyro, he's brought the Blob, he has brought Shuri, and he has brought Crossbones. That's the new version of Crossbones from the new starter set as well. And the tactics cards being brought by the Dark Dimension this time are Dark Empowerment, Dark Restoration, Advanced R&D, Illicit Tech, and Pyrokinetics. And here is the 2 Crisis cards being played. The threat value is on Skrulls Infiltrate World Leadership. This is, of course, the new version of Skrulls. It's not like how it used to be. There's 4 Skrull agents. All of them are Skrulls. You don't have to check for which one's the real one. You can only ever hold 1, and you get 1 VP for each one held during the cleanup. However, when you pick one up, you roll dice equal to your physical defense. If you don't get at least 1 crit or wild, you get moved by the opposing player small, which is potentially nasty, I suppose. Then we have Riot Sparks over Extremist 3.0, that'll be the blue objectives on the map, which is the 4 Extremist consoles. If you're within 2, you can interact with 1 for 1 power to heal 1 damage. You score 1 VP for each one secured, and both sides have the same number of bodies on the table, so we'll see how that kind of works out. And if we just look at the table, pull back a little bit here, we have 2 of the Skrulls there. We have 1 there on top of one of the Extremist consoles, 1 on the other side of Dormammu's portal over there on top of an Extremist console. We have the Extremist console close to one deployment, and we have the Extremist console close to the other. So we'll get both sides set up and then be back with everything set up and done and ready to start after this quick word from my channel sponsor. This video is sponsored by Noble Knight Games. Check out the video description below for an affiliate link that will take you through to their store, and it will help me out as well. Thanks. And we are back with deployment done. I do encourage you to check out the channel sponsor. They carry Crisis Protocol. It's thanks to them that I'm able to pick up some of the newer releases for the game. So they definitely ship them. They ship worldwide. Good service. Not just saying that because they're my sponsor. I actually use them. Anyway, Avengers are deployed to the left of your screen, Dark Dimension to your right. Avengers will be taking first activation. They have to. Same number of models each side. And I think you can just about see where everybody is. Black Widow is down here with Spider-Man. Captain America is next to Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill, in order to get the benefits of that Reserve Members card, needs to be within 2 of someone with an active or inactive leadership, so he wants to stick around Cap. If he does, once per turn, he can add 1 die to an attack or a defense roll. Just a little benefit, but he's pretty powerful, so it should help him out. And then Captain Marvel is right at the upper end there, off on our lonesome. For the Dark Dimension, Crossbones I think is just out of screen, just down here next to this rock. We have Pyro and the Blob, and then Shuri is next to Big Dormammu, who probably doesn't need pointed out because he's gigantic. So with that, let's jump into round 1, Avengers going first. Place your bets on who's going to win in the comments, and let's see how it goes. Nothing super fancy to get the game started, but new Captain Marvel was the first to go for the Avengers. Also nice to see the Triple X bar back after so long. She double medium moves, and she starts with 1 power. Everybody does on the Avengers side except Better Bill because of his Blessed by the All-Father, so he gets 2. Everyone in the Dark Dimension gets 1 extra power in the power phase because of Dormammu's affiliation. If they ever have more than 6 or 7, I forget offhand, they start hurting themselves, and he benefits from that as well. He's a very selfish leader. Anyway, Carol moved up twice, got within 1 of both the Secure and the Extract, paid 1 power, picked up the Scroll, which is the Extract. She's 4s across the board for her defense. She got a wild, so doesn't get scattered short, and that means she's also ending her activation while contesting that Extremist console, which is actually quite hard for the Dark Dimension to get to. For the Dark Dimension's first activation, Pyro activated and also did a double medium move, getting just within 1 of both the Secure and the Extract here. Paid his 1 power, or 1 of his 2 power because of Dormammu, to pick up the Skrull. He did not scatter, he rolled 2 wilds in his 3 physical defense, I believe it was. Either way, he is still fine there, and that means he's also helping to secure the Extremist console that's down on that end of the table. Steve Rogers was up next for his Avengers. He moved up twice to get within 1 of the closest Skrull in the centre of the table there. Paid 1 power, picked it up. Unfortunately, despite being 4 physical defense, he didn't roll a crit or a wild, so he is getting pushed small, and that does mean, based on what we already have here, he's ending up right next to the other Skrull. He can't pick it up or anything, doesn't have the power, he can't carry more than 1, but that puts them very danger close to both Shuri and Dormammu, which is not good. Crossbones activated, moved up small twice to help secure the bottom Extremist console here with Pyro. It would take both Black Widow and Spider-Man now to just equal a draw down there, and the Blob could still go down there and swing it. Well, the decision was made to abandon that lower Extremist console. Spider-Man activated for the Avengers, moved medium twice, this one doesn't move long, and just positioned himself on the closer to the threat side of the closest Extremist console, so he's probably just going to try and sit on that because he's the lowest threat they've got, and everyone else wants to get in there and have a brawl. And speaking of having a brawl, the Blob activated next. He only moves small as well, but he's hurtling down the table as fast as he's able, and is just heading for trouble. In fact, he's heading specifically for Spider-Man. It looks like he's staring him down, so that's where he ended up. Well, it turns out we are going to get some dice rolls as Black Widow activated, moved up medium, which put the Blob within range 3, but I think it's actually within range 4 of her Widow Stingers. 4 dice energy with stun on a wild, and she went against the Blob, who only has 2 energy defense. Would have hit him for 2, but he paid 1 for haha that tickles, which reduces it by 1 to 1 damage in this case, and if they're within range 3, which she was, he gets to like blob them away with a belly rumble, I don't know. So Black Widow, I was going to say Scarlet Witch there, Scarlett Johansson, Scarlet Witch, Black Widow. The brain works in weird ways. Anyway, she ended up back there, and that is 1 damage to the Blob, which also means that Dormammu gets 1 power as well. Oh, and he is stunned, forgot to put that down next to him. Second last activation for the Dark Dimension was Shuri. She moved up, she is within 1 of the closest Extremist console. You kind of can just about see behind the weird thing there. And we're going to have to move because she fires at range 5, so she fired downwind at Spider-Man, who was standing there with her Panther Gauntlets. 6 dice energy is a basic attack, but it only ever does 1 damage, or at most 1 damage. He actually fully blocked it with the help of his Spider-Sense rerolls, so no damage done, but whether it does damage or not, if you're size 3 or less, you get pushed away small. So Spider-Man has been pushed back there, and I actually think he is now outside of... he is. So he is no longer contesting that Extremist console. He's still within range to interact with it to heal, but he's not counting as holding it, so that somewhat limits what Better Bill can do, and it's over to him as the final activation for the Avengers in turn 1. Well, it was a mixed bag for Better Bill because he moved up medium, and that put him within threat range to spend the 2 power he starts the game with on Summon the Storm on the Blob. He did very well in his roll. It's 6 dice energy, I think, and he had 3 crits in the initial roll, so it was a total of 6 damage coming in. The Blob only blocked 1 on his 2 defense dice. He paid 1 for haha that tickles to bring it down to 4 damage, so he still managed to take that 4. That means he is conscious on 1 health remaining, and Better Bill is size 3 or less, so haha that tickles means he is getting pushed back, and he's being pushed back small at an angle such that he is not holding that Extremist console either. So the Avengers have given up that objective for the sake of almost dazing the Blob. And now it is over to Big Daddy Dormammu to end off the round. This is where the violence on probably poor Steve starts. Oof, yeah, maybe I misspoke when I said he doesn't feel like he's worth 8 threat anymore. So Dormammu, he had a little bit of extra power other than what he started with, thanks to the blob being attacked, because he gets 1 every time one of his team is attacked. He spent 3 on Not of this Dimension to be placed within 2, then he did a move to get within 1 of the extract at that point that hadn't been picked up yet. He paid 1 power, picked it up, the scroll. He did not roll, or rather he did roll a crit, so he doesn't get moved, although that is a hilarious visual, like him picking up a tiny scroll and then somehow it like moving him. But anyway, it didn't in this case, so it doesn't really matter. And then he just did his basic Hex Flame, I think it's called, on Steve, and Dormammu counts skulls in his roll and the defender's roll as successes. He rolled 2 skulls in his 6 dice energy attack. Steve rolled 2 with a crit, and the crit turned into a 3rd skull. And then he blocked 1 other, I think. So all in all, he took 8 damage and went from healthy to dead instantly. Didn't have the power to do anything. Couldn't do Vibranium Shield. So yeah, he's just dazed. That's him down. I mean, he's got 6 power now because he's lost all his health in 1 go. But he dropped the Skrull agent he's been holding. It has been placed next to the blob. On the subject of the blob though, because Dormammu does damage to any of his team in the power phase that have 6 or more power, when we get to the power phase for round 2, the blob is actually instantly dazing because he currently has 5 and 1 health left. So he's going to take 1 damage and daze in the power phase of round 2. So I guess both sides lost equally there, sort of, but Steve going from healthy to dazed instantly to 8 damage really hurts. Anyway, that takes us to the scoring for round 1. So here's how the scores stand at the end of round 1. Let's go with the Avengers first. Carol is holding one of the Skrulls, it's not just 1 anymore, for 1 victory point. She's also holding one of the Extremist consoles for 1 victory point. That is the only scoring that the Avengers are doing this round. That is real rough. So the Dark Dimension, they have a Skrull on Pyro and Dormammu for 2 victory points. They are holding their closest Extremist console with Shuri back here, and also the one down here with Crossbones and Pyro. So that's another 2 as well. So they're ending the turn on 4. Nobody scored points here, and nobody scored points for the Skrull agent that Steve was holding. So there is a total of 8 victory points on offer each round, which is a lot. But 2 managed to just evaporate into the ether there. So as we go into round 2, Dark Dimension is winning 4-2, but the Avengers are taking first activation again. Let's see what they can do. So as we begin round 2 here, just making it clear, the blob is now dazed because you gain power in the power phase before any power phase effects happen. So at that point the affiliation bonus from Dormammu kicks in. He has 6 power thanks to the power phase giving him 2, which would take him to 7, and he takes 1 damage. So the blob is starting dazed this round. So it was a very busy start to round 2, so we're going to have this slightly pulled back view to start with. Steve Rogers activated, but first Avengers Assembled was played, and the Avengers that spent 1 power were Black Widow, Captain Marvel, and Better Rebuild. Better Rebuild classed as an Avenger because of the reserves tactics card that we went over earlier. So they all paid to move small and ended up where you can see them, with Carol kind of blending in with Dormammu's portal up there. So then, Steve's actual turn. He had a lot of power to play with. He paid for a charge first of all to move him where you can see him, and did a basic shield bash or shield strike into Shuri. It only did 1 damage. It did get the ricochet, bounced into Dormammu for 2 damage, which is okay, but that wasn't good enough, so he spent for Brooklyn Brawler and only missed out on getting to do a free one afterwards by not getting a wild, and he'd already paid on the first attack, so he can't again because it's still the same turn for these affiliation bonus. That time though he did 6 damage into Shuri, so she's very much dazed. And then he paid 1 power to pick up his dropped Skrull from turn 1, and once again he failed to roll any crits or wilds, so he's being pushed small, and Dark Dimension has decided that the wounded Steve Rogers is getting pushed down there towards danger and away from help. He had a pretty good turn taking Shuri out though, if nothing else. Well, it really was pick on Steve Rogers. The Crossbone activated and used illicit tech, which gives him access to this once per game attack. It actually didn't do any damage, Steve fully blocked it, but it did incinerate on him just by default, and that meant that when Crossbones then fired a plasma beam attack at him, which is just his basic attack, he rolled pretty big on it. He got 6 damage through. Steve whiffed his defense rolls. It had Pierce on it anyway, so that is Steve taken from full to dead. Unfortunately for him, he has to drop his scroll again, and Crossbones is probably going to pick it up because he does not have one. But, actually no, he can't, because in order to make sure that after the next power phase Crossbones stays under 6 power, he's moving. He did a hit and run for 2 power. Although, I can't remember the wording for hit and run. Does it say you have to move away? Because if not, you can just move there and pick it up. We'll need to double check the wording. Yeah, it doesn't specify that you have to move away, you just have to do a move action. So he has moved forwards approximately a millimeter or two, and is still within 1 of the secure here, and is close enough to have picked up the extract from Steve there. And unfortunately, that was not a good showing for Captain America. He got bullied into oblivion. Well, things continue to go from bad to worse for the Avengers as Carol Danvers activates, and she's just not finding a way to generate the power she needs to go binary and start wrecking face. She's a 5-threat character who right now feels like a 2-threat. She moved medium so that she was within 1 of the backline secure that is not currently being secured, thanks to Shuri being dazed. She punched into Dormammu to try and do some damage, 5 dice energy, and unfortunately he fully blocked it. Not only that, he then spent 2 power on Fuel the Power of Darkness, which pushes her away small and gives her Hex, or crits no longer explode. And that also means she's not within 1 of the secure, which again is quite hard to see behind this. But unfortunate, she has no, it doesn't even generate power, so she's sitting on no power. We might go through this entire thing without ever seeing binary, unless I guess Dormammu could go after her. That feed her power might result in her being dazed, but either way, this is not going well from a scoring point of view either. The Dark Dimension only have 2 activations left thanks to the Blob and Shuri being dazed, so they passed. So it was over to Black Widow. I am fairly certain I moved her medium in turn 1. She is a long move, so whoops. So she moved long and ended up right here. She then used her Shock Baton's 5 dice energy into Crossbones, hoping to feed him enough power that when he gets power from Dormammu, he'll actually just keel over, like Shuri did, or sorry, like Blob did. She managed to do 4 to him, or sorry, 5, reduced down to 4 because of his he can take it rule. It did do shock by default for getting a wild, and that's about it. She didn't do anything else. She's sitting on a lot of power actually. It does mean that he's definitely taking 1 damage when the power phase rolls around, so if there's some way Spider-Man or Better Ray Bill can just do at least 1 to him, that'll make sure that he dazes in the power phase, if not before. We're sticking down here because Pyro activated and immediately spent 3 power on Inferno to burn power and also just to burn Black Widow. 7 dice energy against her 2 energy defense. It did a massive 4 damage, and she's counting blanks at that range as well thanks to Martial Artist. Incinerated her as well, so then he just followed up with his basic attack, the one that's not a beam, and did 2 more, which is exactly enough that she is dazed. So yeah, it's going very swimmingly for the Avengers, in case you were wondering. So, 2 activations left to go for the Avengers. Spider-Man activated, and they're going to be so far behind the point spread, he just wanted to try and do some damage, get Crossbones down. So, he paid for Web Slinger, his version is called. Placed within 3 for 2 power, so that placed him there. He then fired Impact Webbing, range 4, 4 dice physical, twice into Crossbones. The hope again was just do 1 damage. He had 1 success in his first attempt to hit him, which was blocked. His second attempt had no successes at all and did nothing. It has been a long time since it's felt so close to concede being the best option. Well, it was down to Dormammu for the Dark Dimension. He stayed where he was and fired 2 Hex Blasts, or whatever they're called. Hex Bolt was Scarlet Witch, I think his is called Hex Blast. Into Peter, range 4. This Spider-Man doesn't have stealth. Does have the Spider Sense rerolls though, for it being an energy attack. First one did 2 damage and inflicted Hex. Second one did 3 damage, taking him to 0 health. So the Hex doesn't matter anymore because he is very much dazed. Dormammu is not done though. He's then spending 3 of the 4 power I think he had on Not of This Dimension. He's not even doing a full range 2 teleport. He is just getting within 1 of the Extremist console back there. And that's that. And an exceptionally disappointing round 2 for the Avengers. It ends off with Better Rebuild just moving next to that secure. Originally wasn't going to do that because what difference does 1 point make? They're going to be so far behind the spread. But he would have to double move to get anywhere near Dormammu or Crossbones. Blob is the closest. He's dazed. Shuri is the next closest. She's dazed. He can't move and get an attack off. He's only got 1 power. So he's just getting that victory point for lack of anything better to do. And that's going to take us to scoring. Well, the nightmare continues. At the end of round 2, the Avengers are scoring 2 points, I believe, or was it? Yeah, it was 2. One for Carol holding one of the scroll for 1 victory point, and Beta Ray Bill holding this back extremist console for another. So they gain 2, taking them up to 4. The 3 Skrull agents, other Skrull agents, are with the Dark Dimension. Pyro has 1, Crossbones has 1, and Dormammu has 1. Crossbones is going to be 1 hit away from dazing after the power phase in round 3. But that gives them 3. Dormammu is holding a portal where he is, and Crossbones and Pyro are also holding this one down here. So that's him up to a massive 9. So 9 is playing 4, and also Dark Dimension have first activation as we go into round 3. So as we start round 3, just as a matter of note, Blob and Shuri are taking 1 damage because of Flames of the Faultine, aka the affiliation bonus of Dormammu, because you flip at the end of the cleanup phase, or during the cleanup phase. The power phase we've already discussed, and they both have more than 6 power, so yeah, they're also taking 1 damage each along with Crossbones. So Crossbones got the 3rd round started for the Dark Dimension, given that he's going to daze soon one way or t'other. He used his big spender up close and personal 8 dice physical into Black Widow. Only got her for 2 damage, which relatively speaking compared to other things isn't too bad. It has a mandatory throw built in for size 3 and less. Threw her away small, so she ended up near the edge of a table right here, and because of that mandatory throw he couldn't really follow up with anything, so he instead has retreated so that when he does inevitably daze, he will drop the objective somewhere over there, and it means they're going to have to come and get it, wasting actions. So that's rough. Well, it was up to Natasha to try her best. Her long move meant that she could get within range 2 of Crossbones, so she did, and then did her big spender called Deadly Origins, which I think is 7 dice physical with a finisher, so she can do a follow-up attack if you don't take advantage of the advanced move it also potentially gives you. She did 3 damage into Crossbones. It actually should have been 2 because he reduces, but either way, he needed 1 to daze. She picked up the Skrull he dropped and unfortunately didn't roll a crit or a wild, so she has been forcibly scattered small, further into enemy territory and away from help. But hey, she took down Crossbones finally and has an objective, so there's that. The Blob activated for the Dark Dimension and spent on his big spender Thunderous Splash within range 3, which Black Widow was. He is allowed to be placed within 1. He did so in such a way where if he'd rolled a wild, which he did actually, yeah, he would normally push other characters away, including allies. So he positioned himself in case that happens to not push anyone else, like Pyro. Well, Pyro probably wouldn't have been close enough, but either way. Landed where he was, 7 dice physical, that was counting blanks, and still managed to take 3 damage, which, she's out of there. She dropped a Skrull, he picked it up, and he does get scattered by it, so there's that. So he's being brought closer to danger in the hopes of removing the Blob from things, but that's the Avengers down 2 now, and Captain Marvel just getting starved of power, so it's rough. Well, the full tilt continues as Beta Ray Bill moved up so that the Blob was within 2 of him, and he did his basic Stormbreaker attack into him and only dealt 2 damage. That was after the Blob paid for damage reduction, so not great. Then he paid 3 for immeasurable strength to pick up the Dormammu kind of burst energy thing that only counts as size 2, which is really weird. You'd have thought size 3 is bigger than a car, but he picked that up, chucked it at him, and oh no, sorry, the Stormbreaker attack didn't do anything. It was the chucking the portal thing that did the damage. So never mind, that's what did the damage. And all said and done, it's still just 2 damage to him, so it's nothing, especially for someone as powerful as Beta Ray Bill. So, not great. Was hoping to at least take out the Blob there, remove him from the table, get that Skrull off of him since Beta Ray Bill isn't holding one. But hey, best laid plans and all that. Well, internal screaming is definitely becoming external as Dormammu decided to activate. He's not going last this time. He paid for Not of This Dimension to be placed within 2. That meant that Peter was within range 3, so he could do his Hex attack. And he did really well with it. He rolled a couple of skulls. It did 6. He's got 5. He's out of there on his day's side. So it's just down to Beta Ray Bill and Captain Marvel now. Oh, for Dormammu's other actual action, since the teleport was not an action, he just did a medium move in order to claim this rear right extremist console, because Beta Ray Bill isn't within range 1 of it and it puts him far away from Captain Marvel, who he has no intention of feeding power to, which basically neuters her ability to do anything, as it turns out. So yeah, there's that. So Carol activated, and she made up for stuff a little bit, I suppose. She moved in order to contest, or rather control, because she's still healthy, the Extremist console that's obscured by the thing bursting out of the ground there. She did Sonic Boom, which is her basic physical attack, into Shuri, and managed to do 4 to her, which does actually remove Shuri. So Dark Dimension didn't get a clean slate, they lost 1. She wasn't holding an objective, or as in a scroll, or anything like that. It does also mean that Carol currently has 5 power. So at the power phase for the next turn, if indeed it goes that far, she will become binary. It won't be enough to make a difference, but we might at least get to see it. Pyro took us to the end of the round, and he has just safety moved himself as far away from Carol as possible while still securing that Extremist console, and that means we're to scoring. So at the end of that absolutely disastrous round for the Avengers, Carol has a scroll in her inventory, I guess, and she is actually holding that Extremist console that she took from Shuri. So 2 points gained, taking the Avengers to 6. Dark Dimension have the other 3 scroll, 1 on Pyro, 1 on Dormammu, and 1 on the Blob that he picked up. They also hold 2 of the Extremist consoles, Dormammu holding this one, Pyro holding this one. So that takes them to 14 of the 16 required to win. Now, it's when you activate Carol, if she has 6 or more power, that she goes binary, and in the power phase that's going to take her to 6. So yes, we could see that happen, but there's no way to catch up in one round. Even if she and Better Rebuild just did absolutely fantastic, Dormammu's basically got a guaranteed 2, because if any of them hit him, he can pay for Feel the Power of Darkness to push them away, so they're not contesting the objective. So there's no way to stop him gaining 2 points. It's been miserable for the Avengers, so in a rare case, this hasn't happened much in 100 and however many, but it's going to be an Avengers concede, and we're going to call it there with the Dark Dimension winning. All glory to the Dormammu, who only lost 1 Thrall and hadn't used the tactics card that could have brought Shuri back if he wanted. How much power did he have? 5. I think it's a 6 cost, so not quite. Someone else would have had to get hurt, or he would have had to hit somebody or be hit. But then he could have brought Shuri back for like the perfect record of not actually losing anybody. That's not usually how the Dark Dimension perform. They're usually pretty lackluster. I think last time they were on the table it was Dormammu versus a Hulkbuster Avengers list, and I don't remember who won that one, but I don't remember it being such a terrible, horrifying stomp. It all went downhill from Captain America picking up that scroll and getting forcibly moved twice. He rolls 4 dice physical. You'd think, well, there's what, 1 of each on the die, so I guess it's not improbable you wouldn't roll a wild or a crit on 4 dice once, but twice? Like, that put him so deep in, he just got absolutely destroyed with nobody around to help him and no option to escape. He didn't even have the power for Vibranium Shield thanks to spending on picking up a civilian. And he died in turn 2, so it's not like he had enough to do much then, and he got incinerated as well. So losing him early was disastrous. Carol, she just didn't generate any power. She wasn't attacked, so she wasn't getting any from that either. So we didn't get to see binary Carol wrecking face. I have been reliably informed that she is an absolute monster if she actually gets to transform into this and do stuff. We'll need to see her again, maybe in an A-Force list where she can get fed power from her teammates. I think that would be a good idea. She probably does better in A-Force. And she'd have She-Hulk backing her up as well. You could not drop off the A-Force unique one, I'm forgetting the name of it. But either way, just an absolutely disastrous showing. We can't really rate new Black Widow or the Spider-Man, the cheap and cheerful 3-threat Spider-Man. They just got absolutely wrecked. The dice wasn't in their favour. Dormammu, well, ironically, both sides were rolling quite a lot of skulls, but for Dormammu, when he's attacking or defending, that's just fantastic because they add up to his successes. So he didn't even do Incantation of Obliteration, come to think of it. He just did basic attacks. But there was just so many skulls rolled. It was enough. Absolute stomping. So yeah, that's a rare concede. I think it's only happened once or twice, maybe 3 times at most in this series over the years. And it's happened again today. Either way, thank you very much for watching. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it. If you are a channel member, you get access to the Crisis Protocol Battle Reports early by a week. So if you'd like to see those early and support the channel as well, I've made them as cheap as possible to be a channel member. It's not a lot, but it does help support the channel. And as I mentioned at the top of the video, if you check out my channel sponsor via the affiliate link, anything you buy from there I get compensated. They carry Crisis Protocol, that's where I get Crisis Protocol from, so I know they have them for sure. With that said, thank you very much for watching, hope you enjoyed, and see you next time for, I don't know, hopefully we'll either see Spider Foes or Web Warriors, or maybe both, we'll see. Until then, ta-ta for now.